Sports One is your destination for the day's best sports shows. Tune in for the biggest personalities on the biggest stories, and don't miss us on The Herd weekdays at 12 Eastern. Catch it all right here Monday through Friday on FS1.
Cold and flu season. Try Vicks Sinex nasal spray. Use as directed. A little snip up there. Don't eat it. Did as a kid. Bad mistake. I did it one time. Do not eat Vicks nasal spray. Matt Barnes played for a decade and a half in the NBA. I love having him on the show. So we're going to break down the whole Laker mess. Lost to the Clippers, lost to the Suns, lost to Milwaukee. One of those is legit. The other two they shouldn't lose to with LeBron James. So Luke Walton, I was told last night, we're in the you're going to hear a lot. The rumor I hear now, it's pretty solid from people I trust. Luke Walton's in trouble. Ty Lue's probably the front runner. What would you make of that? You know Luke. You like Luke.
Yeah.
What do you make of those rumors?
I like Luke a lot, and I think he's been dealt a tough hand, but he's going to be a casualty of war, unfortunately. You know, with the drama that surrounded this season, the not living up to expectations, which to me were way out of the ordinary and a long shot to begin with, or, you know, virtually impossible. You know, LeBron came here and it was supposed to say, you know, change the world. You know, murals start going up and big giant pictures of him, and he's coming to save LA. And this is the Western Conference. It's not that easy. It's a lot different. He's never had such a young team. He's never had a team where there wasn't some LeBron guys, whether that be
that's
coaching,
a great point.
Coaching,
he didn't have one.
Teammates, no LeBron guys. So it's a different mix. So I think as a situation of all that, Luke will probably be fired, which is unfortunate.
I did my delicious pie of blame, and I think there's a lot of different people. I think Magic and Pelinka didn't create a lineup with enough shooters. I've always thought LeBron's best not with bigs but with shooters. They don't have enough. And some of it is just, you know, I mean, Lonzo got hurt.
Yeah.
LeBron got hurt. I think you can argue Luke could have tried to forge a greater relationship with LeBron. That's no day at the beach. LeBron genuinely pushes back on authority, always has. Who do you blame? Where does it go?
I think the first situation you got to take into consideration is injuries. I think we're not even having this conversation at this point of the year if LeBron doesn't get hurt. I think they're fourth in the West and starting to develop chemistry when he goes down.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, they've had key guys miss critical moments in large stretches throughout the season. So people think because LeBron comes, it's going to change. Chemistry has to be developed. Relationships have to be developed. You have to understand your teammate on and off the court somewhat. And they never really got a full chance of that because of injuries. Two, I would say management. I would say, like you said, management, knowing what LeBron's game is, they have too many guys that kind of clog up the middle area, you know what I mean, and don't knock down shots. So it keeps LeBron's, you know, the floor is not as spaced.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. When you defend the Lakers, you can kind of sit in the paint.
No question.
And LeBron loves to score at the basket. And if you don't have shooters...
Right. He can't kick to those guys once he gets by them. They're all...
That's why he always loved Chris Bosh and Kevin Love.
Space guys.
They would move outside, forcing the bigs. Remember when Roy Hibbert gave LeBron trouble for 2 years?
He just sat in the middle, right?
Yeah. So when you don't have shooters, you can defend LeBron more easily.
And then I think, you know, like I said, management didn't surround him with shooters, you know, made this whole trade deadline mess and debacle and kind of shook the locker room up. And then traded a good young piece in Zubac, I think. You know, solid, big, 7-foot, skilled, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and gave him away. You know what I mean? And that's what last night they got bullied. You know what I mean? So you could have definitely used them last night. And then third, I would give it to LeBron and Rich Paul. Because I think, like I said, you know, the way they went about the trade deadline situation destroyed the locker room. Completely destroyed the locker room. And Magic wants to say, this is the business, get over it. LeBron wants to say what he wants, but neither of those guys have ever been in that kind of situation where every single day they're talked about being traded. You know, they've always been the alpha male, two of the greatest players of all time. So they don't really know what it feels like to be scared to look at your phone the next morning or scared to get a call that night because you don't know if you're going to be gone.
You have been.
Yeah, it's uneasy. You know, fortunately, I was a little bit older when I went through it, but for young second, third year guy, rookie guys to have that uncertainty is a tough thing to just say, get over and be a professional and play through it because it's not, we're all human.
By the way, Shaq defended LeBron and said young guys are soft now. Would you acknowledge the world has changed, though, and you do have to, you got to kind of buddy up to players, don't you have to?
You have to cater. I think it starts with the AAU programs. I think that, you know, these kids are all, you know, pampered so much that they want to think that this is what the real life is. And, you know, you're supposed to go through college. Like we talked off the air, you're supposed to get yelled at in high school. yelled at in college, and at least listened to your coach in the NBA. And now coaches have to kind of be careful the way they look at players, because they could be fired, if you're looking at the star the wrong way. So I think the culture of basketball has changed, I think, with the physicality and the way they want to call the game. So I think it starts, like I said, the AAU and the upbringing guys are a little bit softer and more pampered too, but basketball as a whole, the toughness has changed. But at the same time, there's never been this much scrutiny on athletes, especially on basketball players. There's never been this many outlets, this many 24-hour news sources where every single day, every single minute, whatever you're doing is under the magnifying glass and it's reported. So I think it does start to wear on guys. And, like I said, no one's looking to feel sorry for them. But at the end of the day, these guys are human, and it gets to some of these guys, and you can definitely tell that.
There's a story out that LeBron would consider sitting out the rest of the games. And I think Joy may have brought this up. When LeBron was coming to L.A., Kobe fans pushed back because it would shrink Kobe's image. It's actually enhanced it because, as Joy said, Mamba gave you 60 the last game he played.
No matter what.
LeBron's coming to games with wine and load management. In a weird way, LeBron arriving in L.A. has elevated Kobe.
No one thought it would happen that way either.
Nobody. I don't like LeBron sitting out games. I think last night people were chanting Kobe. I don't like it. What do you make of LeBron potentially sitting last 15 games?
I don't think he will. I think what LeBron's going to do is he's going to turn up more. I think he's going to go out there and be that monster that I thought he would have to save until the playoffs. There's nothing to save anymore. I think LeBron's going to come out and play extremely well this last 2.5, 3 weeks of the season to kind of slow down the whirlwind of criticism he's going to get this summer. It's going to be an ugly summer. But like I said, I think he came in with expectations through the roof. Just adding him to this roster didn't really make them. I know everyone wanted to get caught up in the hype, and I even said at one point I could see them chemistry clicking, no injuries, possibly playing the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. But at the end of the day, like you said, you add LeBron to this roster, they never get a chance to get their chemistry. People are hurt all throughout the season. So it was really going to be a no-win for him, because the Lakers are championship and bust, and it's crazy we're making such a big deal about are the Lakers going to make the playoffs. It shows just where they've, how far they've dropped, because true Laker fans don't care about the playoffs. They care about championship rings, and we're debating the last 2.5 months will they even make the playoffs. So the times have changed.
Crazy?
Times have definitely changed.
Listen, this league is, chemistry is an interesting thing. What was the best chemistry locker room you were ever in, and why was it the best?
I think the two best were actually the Golden State Warrior locker rooms, the We Believe team, because we came together as kind of a gang of misfits. And
what year was that?
2007, we beat Dallas in the playoffs when we got Steven Jackson, Al Harrington.
Was that the Montel Ellis? No,
Monte Ellis was there. Yeah, he was young though, so that was Baron Davis, Monte.
And so that was a different
amazing.
Why?
Because once those guys came, we just all became brothers on and off the floor. You saw one of us, you saw 10 of us. Like we went and ate together, we hung out, we watched film together outside of practice.
Were your ages close?
Yeah, similar in age. Absolutely. That's a big difference. That there's a huge gap disparity between LeBron's age and
Rondo, Lance, JaVale, LeBron, Lonzo, Kuzma. Yeah. There's almost two Laker teams.
Huge disconnect.
Old dudes, young dudes.
And like I said before, LeBron's never been on a team that's had this many young guys. You know what I mean? And him almost have to play, I don't know if you want to call it a father figure, but a lot of these guys looked up to LeBron as they were coming into the league. And now they're finally here with them, but they're babies and people don't realize 20, 21. Paul George doesn't blossom until he's mid-20s. Victor Oladipo doesn't blossom until he's, he blossomed maybe 2 years ago, and he's an outstanding player now. I think there's so much scrutiny day in, day out on these young Laker players because they want them to be incredible overnight, and it doesn't happen that way.
What was the worst chemistry you ever had, and why?
Unfortunately, it was probably the Clipper locker room, and it was weird because off the court we were friends and we'd hang out, but there were just too many egos once the game started.
That was Blake, Chris Paul.
Chris and DeAndre, and when Doc came.
I always heard that Chris is rough.
Chris is old school. Chris is more like, I'm going to yell. Chris's problem, I think, was his tone he would address guys with. Not what he was saying, because what he was saying was right. Just, I think, his tone. And it goes back to the AAU, like these guys are coming up being pampered.
He's old school.
Chris is old school, one of those 80s, 90s. I'm going to yell at you, but what I'm telling you is right. Just listen to me. And I was kind of like the buffer. I'd be like, okay, well, what Chris is trying to say is, you know what I mean? So that's what I would go between, Blake and DJ and with Chris sometimes. And because we had the most talented, and we had the most talent in the NBA for a year or two with the Clippers when it was Chris, Blake, DJ, JJ Redick, Jamal Crawford, Lamar Odom,
Loaded.
We were loaded. Eric Bledsoe. Like, we had some very talented teams, but we were our own worst enemies.
Isn't that incredible?
It's
By the way, are you
crazy.
surprised that Chris Paul and Harden have worked? Because they've worked.
I think Chris is kind of doing what Russ is doing, taking a back seat. You know, like Chris is an alpha guy and Russ was an alpha guy, but realizing that James is the man there and Paul is the man in OKC, like he's taking a back seat for the betterment of the team. And I think it's great, you know, because Chris is still very talented. Hopefully, I just talked to him the other day. I told him the only chance they have is him being healthy. You know what I mean?
That's it.
So, you know, it's, you know, play the marathon, not the sprint. But I'm not surprised because at the end of the day, Chris wants to win. You know, I just think in this situation, he's going to a new team. It's not his team, it's James's team. So he's kind of taken a backseat and done what's needed to be done.
Yeah. Well, how often do you talk like if Luke Walton called you tomorrow, you know Luke's in trouble. Like, do you think, how is it landing for Luke? Does he understand? I'm a smart dude, been around.
I mean, Luke is such a good guy and been in LA for a long time. So
Funny.
You know, he knows what it is.
He knows the game.
Like I said, he's going to be a casualty of war, unfortunately. I know he'll land on his feet, whether that's another head coach job right away, a college job, or an assistant, and get himself right back to a head coaching position. But, you know, coming into this situation, the Lakers is always a hot seat, you know, but outside of Phil Jackson, the Lakers job has always been a hot seat. You know what I mean? And if you don't perform, you're gone. And they didn't perform this year for a very, a bevy of reasons. But like I said, Luke would be a casualty of war, unfortunately.
Good seeing you, man.
Good to be seen.
By the way, a lot of confusing terms. Invoice, very confusing term. Go to TrueCar.com. Check out the true price. Save $3,000 off MSRP. Joy with the news.
No.